650,000. And so many jobs will be put at risk if Australia adopts a net zero by 2050 target. A new report from the Institute of Public Affairs has outlined the economic costs of the net zero goal, which Scott Morrison increasingly looks set to adopt, and doesn't make for pretty reading. More on this now. I'm joined from Melbourne by the Director of Policy at the IPA, Gideon Rozner. Gideon, we're not just talking about job losses here, we're talking about a whole of industry wipeouts, particularly in regional Australia. Why would a country like us, less than 2% responsibility for global emissions and so reliant on resources as an exporter, why would we destroy our own economy for a policy that's, 30 years off and impossible to adequately cost, given there's so many countries in the world, we've been here before, they've promised they'll do this and they've promised they'll do that. Unlike Australia, they never, ever come close to meeting their commitments. So are we mad?
Well, I think we are mad, Peter. We're absolutely mad. You make a very good point. And previous IPA researchers showed that the EU is nowhere close to meeting its emissions target. The United States has recently rejoined, but not on track to meeting its emissions target. China is not bound by the Paris Climate Agreement, as we know. So we are going it alone here. And on top of that, as our research today shows, we are putting up to over 650,000 jobs at risk. 300,000 of them are in agriculture alone. The rest of them are in mining, manufacturing, petroleum refinement and things like that. And as usual, Peter, these job losses will be contained to not only blue-collar industries, but to the regions. We aren't going to lose hundreds of thousands of jobs here, Peter. We are going to lose entire communities.
And this is the thing, right? So the ones that are hit hardest are those who haven't got much spare money in their households to pay their high power prices, and their jobs will go. Our standard of living actually falls as a country because we haven't got the terms of trade we once had. Your modelling on electorates, I thought, was very, very interesting. Some of the seats you're talking about, Flynn, Maranoa, Capricornia, these are all Conservative electorates, most of them held by the LNP or the National Party. Now, Michael McCormack, he's effectively rubber-stamped this net zero. Now, this is where it's dangerous territory for the Nationals. This is where I think there's going to be a brawl inside the National Party room.
Well, there should be a brawl if Michael McCormack is rubber stamping this. Look, you make a very good point, Peter. Let's take Flynn, the most affected electorate of the top 20 that we identified. Now, that has huge political risk for Morrison. It's conservative, but it's not that conservative. Don't forget that under Malcolm Turnbull, who was famously a fan of green jobs and all this sort of business, Ken O'Dowd, the local member there, popular local member, copped a swing of 5% and almost lost the seat. The One Nation vote of that election was 17%. This idea that it's okay to go towards the centre because people vote for the Liberal Party anyway by preferences is a very wrong one. Because don't forget, in New South Wales, we've had the likes of Matt Keane running around a supposedly Conservative government. The New South Wales Liberals of the coalition there has lost 3 seats to the Shooters and Fishers. So this carries enormous political risk for Scott Morrison, and it's a very, very dangerous path.
Well, Malcolm Turnbull's election result in 2016 is a living embodiment that, people said at the time, it doesn't matter about Turnbull, they can have all the green policies they like. These Liberal voters have got, nowhere to go. Or they left. They 14 seats worth of them left. I mean, they will walk away.
About 1 million votes.
That's the issue. Your research also debunks this talk about green jobs. Now, I've always argued it's a furphy, this idea you transition, coal workers into repairing solar panels or something of the like. It doesn't stack up. Interestingly, in your report, there's a statistic that stopped me dead. It says in the last 10 years, employment in renewable activities increased by almost 15,000. That's a great increase, sure. But 76,200 manufacturing jobs were destroyed. Now, that's 5 manufacturing jobs lost for every renewable job. It's a con.
It's a con, Peter, but and as you correctly point out, our research shows that for every job created in renewable energy, so-called green jobs, 5 have been destroyed. But even if that wasn't the case, Peter, what we have to ask ourselves is, how fair is it to go into whole communities when people have been working in a particular industry for generations in some cases, and saying, oh, we're just going to shut down your entire industry, we're going to take away your job, but that's okay, we're going to shunt you into a new job wiping down solar panels or something. You know, if somebody told me that I couldn't do my job anymore and they were just going to allocate me a completely different one, I would be understandably upset. It's very cruel, and it's no way to treat Australian citizens and hard-working people. And you can understand the resentment in the regions towards people in the cities when these are the kind of thought bubbles that are created.
Yeah, but that's the embodiment of the socialist state. You know, you don't get to choose what you do.
You get the job you're given.
What you're going to do. Absolutely.
Correct.
Well, Gideon, a very, very hard-hitting report today. Read it in The Australian. Great that you could find time to come on tonight and stay across this issue. Gideon Rozner, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Peter.